Gary, we commenced our finals campaign yesterday against the Box Hill Hawks, and it was another high-pressure and thrilling chapter of our recent rivalry, but unfortunately we were just on the wrong side of the ledger on this occasion to the tune of 13 points. What's been your initial thoughts on the game upon early reflection?
Yeah, we let Box Hill get away to a pretty good start, I think, Sam. It was something like 4 goals 4 in the first quarter to our 2 goals 1. And then for the rest of the game, it was almost line ball, 7 goals 7 to 7 goals 9 that we end up able to kick and put on the scoreboard. So that was one assessment, and you can't let Box Hill get away to a good start. They were primed and ready to go, so a bit of a slack start. I thought they were very good around the stoppages fairly early in the game, and we tried to negate that about probably 10 minutes into the first quarter, and I think we're a bit better at that. I think we gave away too many frees that resulted in possible, I guess, releasing of the pressure, and when you're in that particular situation, frees against are pretty important, especially if they lead to scores, and I think we allowed them to possibly dominate us with their ball movement at times, especially again early. And we kept on chipping away, so you can't question our resilience and our mental toughness in that regard. I think they took too many intercept marks in our forward line, which is a little bit of a concern. And again, when we had probably momentum swings in the game our way, I think we just wasted the ball and weren't polished and possibly skilled enough to execute the right particular type of kick. And in the end, they scored the last 2 goals and they won the game.
You've sort of touched on it already, but it was only 2 weeks prior that we came up 28 points to the good. What do you identify were the key factors in being approximately 7 goals off worse this time around? Was it something they did differently or we did differently on any side of the coin there?
Yeah, I think Pitnet and the ruck was certainly a big change for them in the positive. I think O'Rourke had a really good game. Last time that he played, he was on managed minutes. I think Hams was pretty good across that sort of half-back area, as was Heatherly and as was Mirror. And I think last time we played them, we didn't allow them as many intercept marks. We made them reasonably accountable in relation to making them play the way we liked them to play. I think their overall ball use wasn't as efficient nor as effective. And I think when you talk about moments, minutes, matches, it's all about who can actually withstand the pressure and then who can just stay composed and calm. And I just thought they were a little bit better in the end than us. So they were probably the basic differences, I guess. And probably if you think overall contribution, I would say maybe 5 or 6 of our players possibly won their position. Whereas when we played them a couple of weeks ago, I'd say we were pretty dominant in that area. So you're not going to win a game or a final, especially a high pressure game, if you're only winning 5 or 6 of the positions on the ground.
The Development League also let slip an opportunity to lock in a grand final berth yesterday against Casey, but they've also earned the right to a second chance and they'll get another crack at it against Williamstown at home this week as well. What did you make of that game overall, and individually who impressed you and is perhaps in line for a senior promotion this Sunday?
Yeah, look, that was tight and they probably had the worst of the conditions. There was a fairly big storm that swept through there at one stage, and again the scores would indicate that it was a fairly defensive and dour sort of game. We scored 5 and they kick 8 or 9, and it was really just a tough game all round. Lots of possessions that really probably amounted to very little because it was about trying to gain some sort of distance with your disposal and obviously your ball movement. They looked a little bit bigger, I guess, overall physically than us, especially in their forward line with guys like Gardner and that. So what did I make of it? Tough slog. They took their chances when needed, and they probably kicked those goals when that storm came in too, which probably separated obviously the 2 sides. I thought Josh Tynan tried reasonably hard. I thought Wolferton tried pretty hard. I thought that Gleeson was all right. Waddell was okay, so there was probably a lot of okays and all rights rather than really dominant performances. I probably thought Tommy Gordon was maybe the best player overall when you think about it, but he had to do a lot of work because there was a lot of time the ball was in, obviously, their forward half. So there's a little bit to look at. It's just up to us to try and now combat what we think as far as do we need to make change, what sort of change they are, and obviously it's different opposition this week against Footscray.
And just on Footscray, it's another huge test for us, obviously, as you'd expect in a final series. We're going to come up against the reigning premiers of this competition, who are bolstered by the likes of Tom Boyd, Matthew Boyd and Clay Smith in yesterday's win over Essendon. What do you make of them as an opponent? Obviously, it's a positive that we get to play this final back on our home deck, which we haven't actually done much over the past 7 or 8 weeks.
No, it feels a little bit foreign and strange, doesn't it? Because we should know this ground pretty well, but I guess it's part of the fixturing, and of course AFL Vic want the ground to be in pristine condition, which obviously looked pretty good from afar over the weekend. So it will be a little bit different, but Footscray, the likes of Boyd up front, kicking 4 or 5 goals, Matty Boyd obviously in the middle of the ground, you know that they're going to come out and be pretty confident after beating Essendon, who I thought were in pretty good form towards the end of the season. We only played them the once, which was early in the year, and it was a tight game and we were able to run away at the end. Obviously we've got to maintain that what we know in relation to playing our best is pretty good, and we would like everyone to say, well, okay, we've had a little bit of a downer in Sunday's game, but that's the reason why you finish top 4, because there are chances, and we've got to understand that when we have lost, we've generally rebounded pretty well, and of course that's got to be the same, I guess, mental focus and mindset going into Footscray on Sunday.
Well, Gary, thanks as always for your time today. Bad luck on the result yesterday, but we've earned the right to a double chance, and here's hoping we can make the most of it for another week. All the best.
Yeah, thanks, Sam.